Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Amokwariola. On special days and occasions when it's a date that matters, red carpets are rolled over unresolved issues and the people of a nation can effectively take the time out to celebrate the process and reflect on the journey so far. Today, history takes us back to the morning of May the 29th, 1999, when democratic governance in Nigeria was restored after decades of military rule, ushering an era of periodic elections, vibrant oppositions, evolving issues and surmountable challenges. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on how Nigeria has fared so far in the last 19 years of uninterrupted democracy? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. You can also watch us live on Facebook and YouTube using at TVC News NG. We take a report and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
Which is a good performance.
The president says his administration is the first to allocate 30% of the budget for capital expenditure, a move which will boost economic activities.
This administration focused on revamping the ailing economy it inherited in 2015. For the first time, 30% of the budget was earmarked for capital expenditure. The implementation of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan has started yielding results. The National Bureau of Statistics reports that the economy grew by 1.95% in the first quarter 2018, which is a good performance when viewed against minus 0.91% in first quarter 2017.
On the spate of herdsmen attacks across Nigeria, especially in the Middle Belt region, President Buhari assured Nigerians that the menace has been addressed and that identified culprits and their sponsors will be made to face the full wrath of the law. On the issue of insurgency, he says Boko Haram has been degraded, leading to the re-establishment of authority of government and the release of captives held by the insurgents.
Herdsmen and farmers clashes in several communities, which have led to high number of fatalities and loss of properties across the country, is being addressed, and the identified culprits and their sponsors shall be made to face the full wrath of the law.
President Buhari says the commemoration of this year's Democracy Day is a celebration of freedom, a salute to the resilience and determination of Nigerians, and a recommitment by government to keep its promise to lead Nigeria into a new era of justice and prosperity.
Welcome back. Between the man on the street hoping to get a lifeline and the professional at the office working to meet a deadline, politics is often a unifying topic where leadership is on continuous assessment. How Nigeria has fared in the last 19 years of democratic governance depends on who you ask and the perspective from which they want to judge. Joining me in the studio on Africa Today, I have Achike Chude, Deputy Convener, Joint Action Front, and a political analyst. And on Skype, I have Joe Ibokwe, Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress in Lagos, Nigeria. And he joins me via Skype from United States. Good to have you both on the program. So let me begin with you now, Achike. What are your thoughts on how Nigeria has fared, in the last 19 years of uninterrupted democratic rule?
Well, let's just say that if there's one major benefit of the past 19 years, I think it is it would be the fact that the military has not done what it has always done. When they feel that governments in power have become unpopular and that there is suffering on the streets and the people are not exactly happy about what, how they are being governed. And I'm talking about military intervention in politics. This is the very first time, I mean, in a long, time that the military has stayed out of politics and remained in the barracks. And so I think that that is one of the major benefits or advantages of that. But one thing I can say is that virtually every indices of governance, and social living, it's in the negative, seriously. Yes, we have had a series of elections in this country. The elections were quite turbulent at a particular point in time. We had, especially from 1999, 2003, 2007, political assassinations were the order of the day. Of course, we remember Barnabas Igwe and the wife murdered in Onitsha. We remember Funsho Williams. He died, in this process too. We remember Harry Marshall. We remember Dickie Bo, and all of that. So, at a particular point in time, politicians used such methods to settle scores. But I think over time, in the past 19 years, there has been a serious reduction in the level of politically motivated killings in the country. And then the violence that characterized elections in the early days of these 29 unbroken years of democracy, we are seeing a better response by Nigerians and maybe more decent behavior by the political class. That is not to say that they have shed their garments, their toga of manipulating elections and have suddenly become, better Democrats and the rest. It's just that I think some of them are beginning to play better, a little bit better, by the rules. But once they have opportunities to do what they are known for, they would always do that. So they've not exactly shed their garment. And then we've also had instances where, unfortunately, most unfortunately, courts have had to decide on winners of election instead of the electorate, the voters, because elections have to be decided at the polling booths, right, and not in the courts, and that in itself has also put the judges, in a very perilous situation where some of them have become compromised because they also need to sit in judgment over electoral matters and all of that. But when you look at, society generally, Nigeria is now much more unsafe than it has been.
Really?
For a very long time, yes. Nigeria is a very unsafe country, and of course, we all know that the herdsmen has been designated as the third most
terrorist organization.
Yes, most exactly. A dangerous terrorist organization in the world. It used to be fought some time ago, and all of that, and then kidnappings have increased.
Well, this is clearly a case for the APC to answer. But let me quickly get the thoughts of APC spokesman, Joe Ibokwe, on democracy in Nigeria. Joe, now there have been mixed reactions since the president delivered his speech yesterday on Democracy Day. Some say that part of what he reeled out as his achievements were not really true per se. For instance, according to a non-governmental organization known as Africa Check, it analyzed that some of the claims where the president named specifically power supply had improved to about 5,000 megawatts. Such claims, it said, wasn't true. Now, aside from the achievements the president reeled out yesterday, how would you respond to some criticisms that the APC government hasn't done enough for Nigerians?
Well, let me first of all hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Let me first of all thank God for where we are today. I am the author of Heroes of Democracy, first published in 1999, when this civilian government we're enjoying today came to power. I know we struggled for close to 3 decades to get the military out of politics. And I know the number of casualties. I documented that in 1999. So, and for people like me, I am beating my chest that we have had democracy for about 19 years. We may not have been there yet, but I celebrate the democracy. And other people may say nothing is going on, but I'm seeing what is going on. Especially from 2015, because Nigeria got into the wrong hands from 1999 when democracy returned, and for 16 years we wasted a lot of opportunities, and what this present government is trying to do is to go back and begin to lay the foundation. What was supposed to have been done was not done, and we're paying the price today. But all things considered, I think we have made considerable progress, given what the president has said, what the president said yesterday, and what we are saying. I am from Southeast. People may not know I'm from Southeast. For 16 years, we were deceived. Promises not kept. But here is a zone that gave the president 93,000 votes in 2015. If you go there, you see what is going on in terms of infrastructure. But they will not see it, because once you are not stealing money, they will think you are not doing anything. And you know what I mean. They will think that you have not achieved anything because you are not stealing money. That's what I will tell you. A lot is going on. I've just seen documentary by the ministers. I've just watched it before this news. And you can, when you talk about power, housing, and works, you will see humongous progress. But those who know how to steal money will not believe that you are doing anything, because they will judge you by their own standards.
All right, let me hold your thoughts for now, because we need to go on a very quick break. Now, you're watching Africa Today, and we've been looking at how Nigeria's democracy has fared in the last 19 years. Welcome back. While this democratic dispensation in Nigeria remains the longest-running democracy in history, the journey to this point dates back to the nation's pre-colonial era. Well, almost 6 decades after independence, Nigeria remains an unfolding story of the good, the bad, and the uncertain. Now, Achike, while Joe was online, you were more of disapproving some of his comments. Could you let us in onto that?
Well, I think he says that people are not seeing what the government is doing. And if it's there to be seen, it will be seen. If it is not being seen, it is because it's not there. That is not to say that government does not, and there's no government in this country that has done absolutely nothing. They would always do one or two things, but compared to the duties and responsibilities of government and the money that is available, when you look at what they have done, you find out that it's almost insignificant. But the reality is that, we work with data and statistics and all of that. The reality is that from 2015, even 2015 to 2018, about 10 million Nigerians have lost their jobs. The African Development Bank Economic Outlook for Nigeria, talks about poverty. About 152 million Nigerians today are living on less than $2 a day. That's about 80% of the Nigerian population and all of that. And then you talk about corruption. I think it's an act of blackmail, really, for the APC, government to say that people who criticize it are doing that because, they are supporting corruption. I think it is disrespectful. Seriously, because there are some of us voted the APC, and so we want to see progress, not at this level of blackmail that we're seeing. The Transparency International, of course, today places Nigeria as one of the most corrupt countries in the world, and Nigeria has fallen in terms of the corruption index, even under the APC government. And one of the bases for which this government was brought to power was corruption. And it was, in the past, they can now, because Transparency International has now, come up with this. Transparency International is being blackmailed. But this is the same APC that rejoiced when the same international organization also, talked about the level of corruption that was going on under Jonathan's government. So what it means, as far as the APC is concerned, is that once, you take an action or you say something against, the enemies of the APC, you become a friend. Really? Anytime you say you take an action or you say something about negative about the APC government, you become a supporter of corruption or looters. And that I think that kind of blackmail has to stop, because we are all Nigerians. You understand? We want a country that works. We want a government that is successful. If the Buhari government, for instance, does well, we are also going to derive benefit from it.
All right,
but if it does not do
in...
well, we should be bold enough to say that, look, on this at this level, and in this sector, that the government has failed tremendously. There are no two ways about it.
All right, let's quickly bring in Dre Ibokwe. Joe, I believe you would have heard Achike's point on this matter. How do you respond to this?
You know, what I would tell you, Fashola said, if they said that that APC has not been doing anything, tell them that we are doing much with less. You know, the era of free money is no longer there. That's why some of them are screaming. That's why some of them are hitting their heads against the wall. And I can feel it. But there's nothing anybody can do about it. Statistics will speak, and it's going to speak. Don't forget the fact that if you destroy a house, it will take you time to build. And if some people choose to see what they want to see and believe what they want to believe, then there's nothing you can do about it. No government since I was born in this country has given corruption a bloody nose the way this president has done it. That's number one. Number two, no government has devoted money to build infrastructure which is going to drive the economy all over the world. I'm in Chicago as I speak to you, and I see infrastructure, road infrastructure, the things that drive the economy. You know, I see it. And I know that government is getting it right, and I know that somebody is there. I know Fashola very well. If Achike does not know Fashola, I know Fashola very well.
All right, let me quickly come in here. You get your point. You get your point, Achike. Joe, Mr. Ibokwe, let me quickly come in here because there's another matter now we need to look at critically, which is security. I know the president yesterday said he will do all he can to ensure this is nipped in the bud in terms of prosecuting the culprits found guilty of these heinous acts we keep hearing and seeing in some parts of the country these days. How do you think the government of the APC can address this matter of insecurity in Nigeria in such little time like it has right now?
Let me say that the thing has always been there. Before he came in, people were coming to Abuja to bomb. They went to police headquarters, United Nations headquarters, and bombed them in Abuja. But since 2015, nobody has been able to do that. You see, the other one you're seeing, I mean, let me just tell you, the Boko Haram has been almost decimated. And then again, we begin to feel, we get saddled with issue of S-men that has been there for a long time. It's been there for many years now. And cattle rustlers. This thing has been there for many years. So, and government is facing it, is addressing it. But you know, these people they don't want to see anything good in this government. But we're not looking at those people.
Okay, let's quickly bring in.
Are fixed on the ball. You know, right. In a football pitch, you have spectators, thousands of them. They'll just be clapping and singing.
All right, point taken there.
So
point taken there, Dre Ibokwe. Let me quickly bring in Achike on this matter. Now, let's look at the issue of democracy, which seems to be our challenge right now as a country, as a people. What do you think are those things we aren't doing right to ensure that we have an entrenched democratic system of governance in our country today?
Well, it's the people, is the government. But I think a lot needs to be done by the people, really. Because I think what is to be known about the political class in this country is already known. They are a bunch of selfish people, you know, people who are not committed, who are not patriotic, people who are not exactly interested, you know, in what is going on in this country and how to move the country forward. And so when you have that kind of situation, because ultimately in an electoral process and in a government like we have today, the people are the greatest beneficiaries and the greatest losers of either good or bad governance. So what it means is that the people are the greatest or should be the greatest stakeholders in the political process. But unfortunately, a combination of multiple factors, ignorance, poverty, and all of that, both used as weapons by the political class, have tended to keep the people down. And so a lot is being done to reawaken the consciousness of the people so that they can play the kind of role that they should play. Once the people are conscious enough, then it becomes difficult for the political class to continue to ride roughshod over them. You understand? So, and the reason why we do not have basic infrastructure and all of those things in place is simply because you do not have the people that are constantly putting the leadership under pressure. And I'll give you one instance. For instance, Joe Ibukwe, yes, is doing what he has to do and the rest. But I think one of the lamentable situations that we find ourselves in is the fact that after 3 years of governance, the president continues to seek for medical attention outside the shores of this country. What does it take the president, for instance, to equip all the general hospitals in this country with state-of-the-art facilities? What does it take? The infrastructures are already in place. Even the Aso Rock Clinic itself, so that the president can be taken care of, even just, close by, to the presidential villa and the rest. He's not been able to do that, and I think that is a shame. I think it was the Washington Post, that I think showed the image of the president of Nigeria, who, according to the Washington Post, said once he gets into power, he was going to stop medical tourism so that people can now, political leaders can now, who no longer go abroad, spend the resources of the country to treat themselves. And they showed the president getting out of the car, going to for treatment for the 5th time. And this is something that should be an embarrassment to the APC, an embarrassment to the president of this country, an embarrassment to the people of this country. Right. This is just one, and so many others, that you can think of. So, in terms of there's a lot that we still need to do. I'm also worried because I think Joe Ibukwe is also watching. The recent congresses of the APC, for instance, we have been able to make some progress. And I've told you that the spate of violence, and political killings in this country has gone down drastically. Perhaps because maybe manipulation in the electoral, during the electoral process is also becoming more scientific and the rest, because the politicians have not changed their cloth. But then, the fact that 19 years after, we have the APC, organizing a nationwide congress. And it is the most acrimonious in the history of this country after 19 years in power. And this is the political party in power. In virtually, we are talking today, you have 19, in 27 states of the federation, of the 36 states in the federation, you have 27 parallel congresses, that took place, producing their own leaders under the APC. And that is an embarrassment, and it is something that the APC must address. Indeed. And that is why Jega, the former INEC chairman, warned, as a result of what he saw with the congresses, that we might be in for some very difficult times if we allow what has happened to continue.
Right. Now, let's quickly bring in Joe Ibukwe here. Now, Joe Ibukwe, from what Achike says now, there is a lot in the hands of the APC government. If it clearly wants to win the hearts and the minds, rather, of Nigerians in the 2019 elections. But let's still stick with democracy here, which is our bane of discussion. What is the government doing now to strengthen democratic institutions? By this, I mean the courts, I mean the electoral system, I mean all that needs to, to take to ensure that our democratic system, or institutions rather, are strengthened.
Yes, can I go on?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, let me tell you. This is APC. You saw the primaries we did in 2014 in Lagos. That was a standard set. And we have been maintaining that standard. You can, you talked about the last congresses that we had, last Saturday or 2 Saturdays congresses that we had. You see, these things will come. Nobody, a party as big as APC, you don't expect that people will not try to do some funny things, just to get about, because nobody wants to be relegated to the background. Everybody wants to be in the driver's seat. So they still need to do those small things they do just to manipulate themselves to power. But then, if APC allows that, then you know that this is not the APC that we know. But I know that APC will not allow it, because we expect that these things will come, and we expect that we are going to deal with these challenges. Now, Achike talked about about our hospitals. These things are done one by one. Ajaokuta is being reactivated after almost 16 years. Ajaokuta Steel Mill is coming up. Nigerian Airways, that they abandoned for many years, are still coming up. He cannot see that. You see, you're not going to deal with everything at the same time or so many things at the same time. You take it one by one. All the roads that were abandoned, Second Niger Bridge, Lagos, not Lagos, Enugu Port Harcourt Expressway is under construction. Onitsha Enugu Expressway is under reconstruction. So these things are coming up. This man, the president, is building from the start. A devastated nation, a nation that has been plundered and pillaged, beyond recognition. So we need to understand this. You don't have to do everything at the same time. You need to start from one and you just move.
All right.
So he's getting to that. The president is aware of the state of our hospitals.
All right.
And I know he's going to do something about it. But remember, we are doing these things with mega resources.
Okay,
Thank
you. I have to end the show right now, Joey Bukwe. I know you have a lot to say on what the government plans for the people, but thank you very much for all you've contributed on the show. And as well, Achike Chude, thank you very much for your contributions on Africa Today. Now, so much to reflect and analyze on the essence of governance and the dividend of a democracy for a nation going through a challenging phase in time ahead of a general election less than 265 days from now. Stuck between the past and the future, creating a present that would work for generations to come in Nigeria requires a paradigm shift and the political will to ensure that democracy counts for everyone. And that is our package for today, but don't forget to join the conversation as usual on Twitter at TVC News NG, and also follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Omokwariola, and always remember, Africa can only get better.